the people that are most successful, they're genuinely curious about so many
Yeah.
things, right? I mean, you talked about the different paths you had. Can you just talk about, kind of that lifetime learner, that
Yeah.
curiosity, and kind of how that's allowed you to make these
Yeah.
transitions?
So, and I'll get, if I can, may I give you a specific life example of genuine curiosity and how it could take you from zero to hero in about 3 seconds? I used to
Yes.
have, I'm not going to do it because I've got a news interview with a major network after this, but I used to write back when I was at Fortune 500 companies. One of them was a little company a lot of people might not have heard of called ADP, that I went from. Yeah, if you can survive there, you can survive anywhere. I went from
Yeah.
in the third day of work, literally. It was the Estimatics division. It was a side division of the company. I went from third day on the job to closing the biggest deal in the history of that division by this acronym I used to write on my hand called DANG. And DANG stood for, forgive my language again, dumb ass new guy. And I used to always remind myself that the value is in the dang. And let me give you an example. So it's third day on the job, had a boss called, his name was Lance Price, scariest guy ever. At the time I was not a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu yet. Lance was a good dude, trust me, but he scared me. He played tight end for Oklahoma University. He was a national champion. He's like 6'5", 260 pounds of pure muscle. And the company, not me, because I had only worked there for about 3 days, the company had scored a meeting with this guy that was one of the largest auto body collision centers. And that's what we sold software to collision centers in the country. Okay. This guy, Vince. And Vince lived in Colorado, which was my territory. And Lance was like so excited. He's like, man, I'm coming out there. We've never been able to close Vince. We've been trying to close this guy for 5 years. You're going to come along with me. You're going to shut up and you're going to learn. And this was before Blackberries, before everything. Was so excited. Third day on the job. I'm supposed to pick Lance up at the airport. I go to the airport, no Lance, right? I wait, no Lance. And I didn't have, there was none of these, right? So I did what the old school people did. I went to a payphone and there was, you could call into your corporate voicemail. And I call in, here's a voicemail from Lance. And he doesn't sound happy. And he's like, flight's canceled. Here's the thing. This was the biggest meeting our company had. You're going to go. Okay. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to reschedule the meeting. He's like, I'm going to repeat that. This is very important. I don't need you blowing this deal. You're going to reschedule the meeting and then we'll figure out another time to meet with this guy and probably close him. So I go out there, spiky haired, skinny kid. I had a pretty cool car because I had owned my own business. I had this sweet little Audi. I pull up. I'm like, hey, I'm here to see Vince. And I wait and Vince is late. I come into Vince's office and he's like, who are you? And I'm like, hey, I'm Matt. I'm new. I'm super pumped up. Right. And I remember I had dang written on my hand just to, because I used to do that, like always be curious. And I go to, he's like, you're probably going to reschedule the meeting because usually it's a team about 4 of you that come in. He's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, I guess there's some issues with the airline. And I couldn't help. I was kind of looking over his shoulder, like I'm looking over Chris's shoulder right now. And Vince was like, what are you looking at? And everything from Lance's voicemail wanted me to shut the hell up and not say anything. But I couldn't do it because I was always curious as a kid. And I was like, there's this big glass window behind his desk. And his desk led out into, he was on the second floor, a giant auto body collision repair facility. I'm talking massive, 20,000 square foot, like the owner's box, right? Looked out. But there was one thing that caught my eye. And I was like, is that and it's so embarrassing, but this is exactly how it went down. I'm like, is that a spaceship? And he was like, what the hell is this guy talking about? He looks over his shoulder and he's like, what do you mean spaceship? And I got up and I walked over to the window and I tapped on the glass and I'm like, that it literally looked like a flying saucer sideways sitting in the middle of this thing with like people coming in and out of it that look like aliens. Right. And dumbass new guy, be curious. Right. And he's like, spaceship. I've never heard anybody call it that way. Even my grandkids. He goes, that's a jamming tunnel. And I wasn't dumb, right? I knew it wasn't, but I kind of wanted to put be a kitschy, but I didn't know what the hell I'm like, jamming? You mean like you guys get in there and you jam, like you play musical instruments? Yeah. He's like, how do you like those shoes? And I'm like, where are we going with this? And he's looking at my shoes and I just bought them and I'm like, I don't care about my shoes. He's like, great, because they're going to get destroyed. Follow me. If you've ever been to a collision repair center, your shoes are getting wrecked, right? Because paint and it's the worst environment for dress shoes in the world. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. So he walks me down there and he's like, this is the first time anybody's ever asked me about this. I've got a meeting after this. I don't care. I'm explaining it to you. Son, this is a jamming tunnel. Okay. When you paint cars, the most expensive thing out here besides our labor is our cost of materials. I invented this narrow thing to where if you have a door or a fender, not a whole vehicle, this is a paint booth that is very small because you could spray a door in there, and what we call overspray, you don't waste any materials because it's not a huge environment for the paint to fly all around. And he's like, I invented this. He goes, this changed the industry. This saves, and I think it was 36% in materials cost on small paint. And I was like, oh my God, I started asking him all these questions. And it was like, he literally became my stepdad in 2 seconds, right? He was like, let me show you this. And he goes, let me show you another trick if you're going to start your own business. You see that guy over there? He's qualified for a frame machine. That frame machine makes us $76 an hour. See how he's not sweeping with a broom, right? And he started giving me all these tips on how to run a business. We walked back up to his office and my shoes were wrecked as promised, right? And he's like, listen, here's the deal, Matt. He goes, you guys have been trying to sell me for 4 years. You've come in and out of here with groups of people, with presentations, with all kinds of great stuff. You never cared. He goes, never once has anybody cared about my business the way that you've cared about. Okay. It's very clear to me that you care about my business, that you want to know what's going on here. And I get this because I tell it like it is. He goes, it is also very clear to me that you don't know what the hell you're doing as far as software or ADP. And I was like, it's my 3rd day on the job. He's like, it is clear as a bell. It's your 3rd day on the job. But here's what we're going to do here. He goes, you're going to go back to your office, wherever it is that you came from, and you're going to write up a contract. And we are moving our services, not for this shop, for all of our facilities over to your company with one thing. Number one, you have the people that design our stuff, put our stuff in, know what they're doing, because you don't. Number two, you oversee our account. I like to have, and this was, and I ended up using this word a lot throughout my career. He goes, I like to have one throat to choke. It's going to be yours. He goes, because you showed up here, you cared about my business. And I feel like if I have a problem, guess what? You're going to show up here and you care about my business. And I called my boss and I was like, yeah, so I know we had to reschedule it, but what we're going to need to do is do a contract. And he's like, what, a temp thing for what did you do? You don't even know. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm like, no, for all the facilities. It was the biggest sale. Like I literally became rookie of the year, day 3, just on that one sale. And it's all because, to the hustle points, right? I was ability to learn from others. Okay. I had the energy to enjoy my day, and I took the freaking chance, right? Like I talked to that person. And this is all stuff that I learned from my mentors in selling, but I didn't even have to sell Vince. It's just being curious. Like if I could hire people for my business, that'd be the number one trait that I would hire from. And it is the number one avoided trait in job interviews. Like everybody talked about what's your experience? And they spend 10 minutes talking about somebody worked at Starbucks, which has nothing to do with their brokerage or software company or whatever. See, ask that person, like, what do you want to know about our business? And if they can ask you questions, you can train them for everything else, right? Like I train salespeople that make millions of dollars a year. All of them are curious. I also train plenty of salespeople that make north of $500,000 a year. Some of them are curious. You can make $500,000 a year without being curious. You cannot make over $1 million in sales without the ability to stop looking at the world through your lens, stop looking at every deal as this is the same as all the others, and slow the hell down in the beginning. When you slow down in the beginning, right? Hey, Dustin, tell me more about that, right? Hey, because of the fact that you said you guys are having problems with this policy, can you give me a specific example of what's going on there? When you can stop trying to be the smartest person in the room and be dang the dumbass new guy or dumbass new gal, right? And don't make yourself look stupid, but when you can be curious and learn about that person's current situation and slow down in the beginning, these deals, I can teach them how to close on this call right now. You won't even need to know how to close on a lot of them because they'll close themselves, right? Sales reps, managers, business owners, entrepreneurs, what I'm about to tell you, this is gonna hurt, but trust me, it will be well worth it. I want you to think back to that excitement you had when you first got started. Maybe it was your first day. You thought about all of the lives that you were going to change with your amazing product, your business, your service, your solutions. And hey, let's be honest here, you were going to make a lot of money in the process, of helping people, helping businesses change their lives. But it didn't work out exactly that way, did it? If you're anything like me, if you're anything like most people in sales, you found it was just a little bit more difficult to close those deals than you thought, or maybe you're struggling right now. Now, I warned you, this is the part that's going to hurt, but in order for this to work, you and I need to be honest with each other. I want you to think about all the reasons that you're not hitting your targets, all the reasons you're not making the sales that you had anticipated making. Is it the economy, your competition, your territory, your pricing? Maybe it's your manager, your product, your service, your solution. Here's the part that's going to hurt. There's a 94% chance it is none of those, and it's time you face reality. The reason why you have to work so hard just to close a single deal has nothing to do with the economy, nothing to do with your competition, your territory, your manager, your product, your price, your service. The reason why it's so hard for you is you simply haven't learned a better sales process. But wait, you've had sales training from your company. Yeah, I did too. You've read some sales books. I read just about every single one of them. Or maybe you're saying to yourself, well, I was always born a salesperson. Nobody is born knowing how to sell more than they're born knowing how to speak Cantonese or fly an F-22 fighter jet. And by the way, the right sales process is a lot easier to learn than a language or flying an airplane, but you still have to learn it. My name is Matt Easton. I'm the founder of Easton University, and if you'll let me coach you, I can show you how to sell more than you've ever imagined without being pushy, without being manipulative, without following some super complex system where you spend more time trying to figure out what stage your deal is in than actually closing deals. If you will let me coach you, you will never, ever, ever, ever find yourself blaming the economy, your products, your price, your manager, your territory, your competition again, because you're going to be in total control of the sales process and the outcomes. I've devoted my life to unlocking the perfect sales process, and I want to coach you the same way I've helped thousands of other people in the exact same position that you are right now sell a reported $3.47 billion, yeah, that's billion with a B, over the last 12 months. I've been where you're at right now. I know how to help you. I can show you in just a matter of minutes what will take you years of trial and error to learn on your own. Now, if you've made it this far, but you're saying to yourself, it can't be that simple, just trying a new sales process alone will not get me to where I want to go. I know exactly what you're feeling. I said those exact same things, and I was wrong. Having the right sales process changed absolutely everything for me. So I want you to do me and yourself this favor and spend just a minute or two over at eastonuniversity.com checking out what we've built. Now, if you spend a couple minutes and you decide that our coaching can't help you, it can't help you change everything about your career, everything about your life, no harm, no foul. You can continue to do things the way you're doing them right now. But just imagine, what if you head over to eastonuniversity.com right now and it connects with you? What if it is that simple? Suddenly everything starts to make sense and everything changes for you. Your career, your income, your goals, your company. You start heading in the direction you always thought you could. Isn't it worth taking a couple minutes and seeing if that might be the case? Easton University is more than a platform. It's more than live coaching with me. It's your future, and you and your future are worth it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you and I have met each other, and I look forward to seeing you over at eastonuniversity.com right now.